So when we are talking also research, the few things already are mentioned, and I'd like to request that now next our presenter, Dr. A.K. Enamul Haque, sir, from the East West University, Department of Economics, East West University, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I think it's an interesting gathering that we didn't really expect around in Dhaka city, normally with all these different faculty members from different universities coming together. I'm going to draw back a little bit and ask a question of why we are discussing it. I think that is a critical issue for us to know. One is the integrity as a process to follow it. Turnitin is a software. There are many different ways that you can look into it. And one is the objective of being honest in your research. So I think the most important part of doing research is that why you should be honest. Is there a reward behind it? And that is where I think the reasoning should come. The way I look at it, because there should be an objective of my work, and based on these, why we should be honest. The process itself is going to make us another clerk, because I think this clerical mentality, I am against it in principle, because we have to think about the reasoning behind it. So the reason I'm saying, I'll give you two interesting examples for you to think about it. Every one of us know the AIDS testing that was originally invented by a French doctor. So he was in his laboratory doing his research and eventually find an enzyme that is actually tested positive in AIDS. He was very surprised because the enzyme was not known to him. I believe his name is Francois Barré-Sinoussi. So he was looking at it, and he, in fact, decided that he should discuss it with a friend. So he sent his sample data set as well as with the process the way he used to his, and he was in Louis Pasteur's institute. So remember, Pasteur was known in his institute. So he sent his data set to a professor his professor in America, Professor Gallo, and sent this to him. An objective was, if I correct the name, that is person, send him in terms of finding out that this is what I have done, you are doing similar research, can you see whether this is what I found out is okay? So professor did the same replication, found exactly the same thing, and he patented it. So you realize all we're looking at is actually avoiding a theft. And this is not a new thing. So one issue of integrity, the reason we talk about it, because there is a lot of theft around. Your idea will be copied by someone, your idea will be taken over by someone that you will not be able to claim it. I'll give you one of my examples. When I was doing my research in Canada, it was a very simple work, not a great work. One of the Australian professors came to visit my university. My professor thought that I should discuss the whole thing with him because he's a renowned professor. So we discussed it. And then after finishing my defense, I sent it to a journal, and journal said this is already in the press. So theft is very common. So I think when we talk about research, we should think about it's not a process we are looking at it. It's actually your ownership. And eventually I could not get the claim of it because somebody who was visiting my university has talked to me, got the idea and said, okay, this is fantastic, I can publish it. So, and this is not new, quite a lot. So I think one thing that we should understand as a researcher, that we're discussing it to protect our knowledge, to claim our ownership on the knowledge. That should be the objective of the whole process, not necessarily process itself. The second thing, it has not been in Asia so much we talked about integrity. So the example of Indian Vice Chancellor being jailed, these are all new things. Bangladesh had the same thing. Because Asian culture was a more open, less claiming ownership, more social. Sociologically, that is how Asia was. Whereas Western civilization was based on personal claim. And not that they did not steal anything, they stole a lot of things. The ceramic was stolen from Chinese to the Netherlands. The Netherlands ceramic was actually stolen, artisan from China. They took him, forced him to take the technology. So this stealing was happening, everything. Even if you look at, I'm not sure whether Professor Azim will say something, whether Michael Madhusudhan was stealing or not. Because he was also stealing somebody's idea. So I'm talking about researchers do it, but it's not the stealing we're talking about. It is your idea, you should claim it, and that is the reason why you should do it. Now the next logical question that I think, time is not much, so I will not. So the reason we push about it, I think the fundamental reason we should start thinking of the Bangladesh now is what Dr. Fakir has mentioned about it, Vice Chancellor. He mentioned about it, which I like, that he said I think it was also Manzoor Bhai also made the same, that we are in a macro state when we are moving up. As the country is being developed, as we are proceeding in the forward, we should realize that with physical level, we cannot raise our income. We need to claim the knowledge. And that claim requires a process to be followed, and that process is what we are talking about. So I'm trying to push you in your mind that the reason we are pushing it, not a process, but to claim a new generation of knowledge that has to be ours, and through that, we would be able to say, this is our knowledge, and this is our ownership. The challenge of the world is actually not in physical level, it's in knowledge. That is where the domain we're fighting each other. The other point that I want to bring in, that is an important point that I thought we should discuss, which is the fight for, if you look at the reasoning that the whole software and everything has come, that also tells you that the whole world is full of people who will steal your idea. If you believe that we are the only one stealing, answer is no. Everyone is stealing. So I think it is time for us, and a lot of our theses are good theses, not really reported. We do not have even journal. The irony of the Asians are, we don't have even good journals. Because we don't have journals, we cannot claim our knowledge. A lot of our knowledge has been stolen over the history, and in future it will be. So I think the reason we are pushing for it is this. The last point, I think the issue that I want to bring in, which is the data integrity. When we do research, I think it is time for us to be honest in our research. When you collect our data, record the process of data collection. A lot of us do not do it. Record the way you actually ask the question. Nowadays they will say, look, we always say social science, randomized data set. What is randomized data set? A lot of us do not actually use randomized data set, we claim it. So my point is that we should also look into those data sets that, okay, these are collected properly, these can actually lead to better knowledge, otherwise it's actually based on our bias. We have a data set, we create our biases, we keep our results. So we should be able to do this. We need to look into this verification of data. We have all this quality control issue, but data verification is important. Nowadays they said open data. If you have published it, put your data in this public domain so that this can be tested by someone else. You'll hide your data, which is a current practice for many of the researchers. And then you say, I found this. I do not believe that's a good way of doing research. So I think it is the time for us to come to that particular domain, and we are preparing for it. Thank you. Thank you very much.